If you really want to know what's going on, the world is changing. And the basic problem is that the expectations that we have for men are not changing. So if you look at the research on perfectionism has increased by about 30 to 40% in the last 30 years. Perfectionism has increased in men more than women. And the perfectionism that men experience is this very specific kind of perfectionism of I am going to be unable to live up to the standards that are expected of me. This is a gigantic epidemiologic shift. A 30 to 40% increase of primarily men, or more than 50%, it's increasing for everybody, more men, who believe that I can no longer fulfill the expectations that the world sets on me. And that's true, right? Why do people feel that way? Because it's usually people feel a way because there's some truth to it. So I'll give you all a simple example. So women have started earning more. Good. That's a good thing. We want equality. Generally speaking, I'm in favor of that. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing is that there's an attitude that I want my male partner to make more than me. So if you ask, I think the majority of women, they will say that. Now things are a little bit tricky because there are more women in college, more women get advanced degrees, there are more women in medical school, right? So a lot of these women who want to marry doctors, like the pool of male doctors is shrinking. So now the question becomes, do you want to adjust your expectations? And this is the problem that men are experiencing, is that there's no adjustment of expectations, even though the world has changed. So I'll give you all another good example of this. People are saying like, okay, like men need to be emotionally available. Number one thing I see when I'm trolling around on my single friends' dating profiles of what women are looking for, top thing that floats to the surface, maybe this is just a subset of people I hang out with, is emotionally available men, right? Because men should get in touch with their emotions. But if you really look at how we judge men for getting in touch with their emotions, it's not very good. And you may say, no, Dr. K, like, no, we're like totally fine accepting men's emotions. No, we are not. We are okay accepting one emotion from men, which is sadness. Now, thankfully, in the last 30 years, it's okay for a dude to cry. But do we accept a man's anger? Fuck no. That's what we call toxic masculinity. Men are allowed to feel emotions except for anger, because when you feel anger, you're a toxic man. Toxic masculinity, bad man for feeling anger. You should be crying instead. How dare you get upset? How dare you express anger? What about shame? Oh, as a man, I feel pathetic. I don't know if this is ever going to work out. I'm so sorry. I'm a piece of crap. Oh my God, this guy is so emotionally needy. I can't handle this. It's not my responsibility to patch up this man. And the crazy thing is, you're not wrong there, right? If that's what you're saying, it isn't your responsibility. No single human being is responsible for fixing another human being. And this is where we come back to, is it worth it for a woman to be in a relationship or not? Because a lot of times what relationships for women mean is, since we've got a society of screwed up men, what that means is that there's a certain amount of like, you got to play medic, right? So if you're like a woman in a relationship, because of something around parenting, and we'll get to some of these macro factors in a second, it's like you got to be 50% medic and 50% girlfriend. And some women, especially now, just don't want to sign up for that, right? Like there's some of y'all that want to be a savior and heal someone, which is cool. It also leads to problems in relationships. But this is a problem. So we're okay with men being sad, thankfully, but we're not okay with them expressing other emotions, because those are weak. Those are toxic masculine, especially the anger one. That one's the one that's the craziest. It's also the emotion that men have the most access to. So when we say we're going to emotionally accept men, we're going to emotionally accept a minority of your emotional experience, right? So just to give you all an example, if you have a relationship where there are two people and one person gets angry and one person cries, what is the judgment that we place on those negative emotions? What we always do is we value the sadness over the anger. We don't say that you have a right to be angry. If you're angry and this person is crying, you did something bad. We place a value on sadness that is above anger. And if two negative emotions collide, sadness always wins. And then if we look at differentials in the way that different genders express emotions, women are more likely to cry and men are more likely to get angry. And this is why men are scared to go to couples therapy, because they are outgunned. Because we don't treat all negative emotions the same. We treat the ones that are masculine, more predominantly masculine, as negative. And this, by the way, also screws women. Because the worst thing that you can be is a woman who expresses a masculine emotion. That's the worst. We treat men harshly for it, but we treat women even worse. Because now suddenly you're a cold bitch at work because you got pissed the same way that a male colleague did. We do not allow women to even express anger. Right? And if you're like a woman and you get mad at someone and someone else starts crying and it's like, oh my God, how heartless are you? Oh my God. There's a word, right? We use the word bitch. We use the word cold. We use the word heartless. There's a particular idea that we have around people. And so this isn't like anti-men or anti-women or anything like that. Like, I don't think that that's productive. Let's understand what's actually going on. But this is where we get to this issue of expectations. Because if we're talking about equality, equality means equality. Equality means, are you okay with the stay-at-home dad? Are you okay being the sole breadwinner and working 2 jobs and doing overtime while your husband goes to the gym and takes care of your kids? As a dude, can you put that on your dating profile? Not interested in a career, not interested in financial independence. I'm looking for someone to take care of me because I am beautiful and I deserve it. Like, I'd love to see an experiment where someone actually did that and we'd see what happens. But the basic problem is that the world has changed, but our expectations of men have not. And as a result, there's a gap that makes it impossible for men to live up to expectations. And then we have this other parallel thing going on, which is that and this is where things kind of get connected. So let me just explain, right? So hopefully I'll see this. But in this whole point about what do you bring to the relationship? So what men, you need to bring more to a relationship now than you used to because the woman doesn't need $50K a year because she can make $50K a year herself. She can, to add value to the relationship, you need to bring $100K. You need to bring emotional availability. You need to bring all this other stuff that we were never taught how to bring. That's the other thing. Right? So as men, like, what are we taught? We're taught that, hey, if you feel bad, the only thing you're allowed to express is anger. You can't cry. That's shameful. You know, and your value is determined by what you bring to the table. Right? 6 feet, 6 inches, 6 figures. 2 of those you probably can't control. So you focus on money.